For nearly 70 years, Bomber Command was ignored or worse, vilified, and yet they had the highest loss rate of any unit in World War II. And every night they went up and put their lives at risk, knowing that the likelihood was they wouldn't come back.
You're listening to Come Here, the podcast for and about heritage attractions, where you can discover somewhere worth visiting. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist with a background in archaeology, specialising in voiceover for the heritage sector. Each week, I chat to someone from a different museum, historic site, gallery or cultural space about why you should visit, and exactly what you can expect when you get there. The International Bomber Command Centre, or IBCC, is based in Lincoln. It's a really impressive memorial and visitor centre and is looked after by Nikki van der Drift and many other staff and volunteers too. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today, Nikki.
It's brilliant to be here, Liz. Thanks.
So can you just introduce yourself and tell us what your role is?
Yep. So I'm Nikki van der Drift, and it's my absolute delight and joy to be the Chief Executive at the International Bomber Command Centre.
And that's based in Lincoln, isn't it?
It is, yes.
How long has it been there now?
So it's a project of two halves, really. So the memorial spire and the first phase of memorial walls went up in 2015. And then we opened to the general public for the whole project with the building in 2018.
Gosh, has it been as long as that already?
Yes, you can tell by my grey hairs.
If only we could see you, Nikki.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about your role. What does it actually entail? What does a typical day look like for you?
Now there's a question. It's a bit of a misnomer, CEO, for a project of this size, because it's such a hands-on role. I always think it should be, General Dog's body, really. Everything, and that's the joy of it, really. So no such thing as an average day, but let's take today. So we're closed to the public on a Monday, so it's definitely an admin day for me. Obviously clearing up an awful lot of emails, dealing with inquiries, corporate hospitality and events, that sort of thing. A lot of planning work going in. And then this afternoon is writing funding bids.
Oh,
Yes, yeah. But a day up at the centre will be meetings, serving on a table. I spend quite a lot of time in pot wash, or it could be showing people around, or hosting one of the events.
yeah. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the IBCC, can you describe the site? What is there?
So the site itself is 10 acres of parkland at the top of one of the very few hills in the area. And there's a memorial spire there, which is 102 foot or 31.09 metres tall, which is the wingspan of an Avro Lancaster.
Ah,
And that's surrounded by corten steel walls in which are inscribed the names of nearly 58,000 young men and women who lost their lives serving Bomber Command in World War II.
yeah.
There's an exhibition of 10 8-foot silhouettes of women in war. We felt it was really important to recognise the wide-ranging and absolutely vital contribution of women in the last World War. So there are 10 individuals that we've selected, and we tell their stories. And you've got the Lincolnshire Peace Gardens, where there are 27 native lime trees, and they are geolocated, and that means that they exactly represent the places where the 27 Bomber Command stations were in the wartime in Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of interpretation around the site so that people can understand more about why Bomber Command was needed, what they did, the impact. And our three core tenets are recognition, remembrance, and reconciliation. So at the heart of all we do, those three things in education fuel everything. From the way that we train our staff to the way that we do our exhibitions and interpretation. Vitally important that we remember that wartime is about shared suffering. So we make sure that people understand that. And then you've got the Chadwick Centre, which houses all the visitor amenities you would expect, but a learning centre. We've just put through our 50,000th child through our learning programme since 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have obviously hospitality facilities in there. But importantly, we also have 3 galleries with our immersive and interactive exhibition. It's worth saying that we're not a museum in the traditional sense. So this is not somewhere to come if you're looking to see aeroplanes.
No.
Or a lot of artifacts. There are only, in fact, 8 artifacts in the entire exhibition. The rest is all based on our huge digital archive, which is oral histories and photographs. And it's Bomber Command in World War as seen by those that were there on all sides.
Yeah.
And it gives you a great opportunity to interact and take out of that exhibition as much as you need. I'm often asked how long should I spend in there, and the answer is anywhere between 1 and I think the record is 4.5 hours. I think you have to be quite dedicated to be in one space for 4.5 hours. But it really is, because it's layered, it's up to you to engage so that you can pull out exactly the elements that you most want to know about.
Yeah. How did the centre come about in the first place?
So there was a wonderful gentleman called Tony Worth, CVO, who was at the time the Lord Lieutenant of Lincolnshire. And his passion for it was that his grandfather, Sir Arthur Longmore, had been one of the very first people in the RAF and was quite senior during World War II. And Tony's father and 2 uncles served in the command, and the 2 uncles never made it home. So when he was made Lord Lieutenant, it gave him an ideal opportunity to make sure that Bomber County, as it's known, Lincolnshire, hosted something that brought their story to life.
Yeah.
And so that plan started in 2011 when we formed the charity. And it took us until 2015 to actually get the memorial built.
Yeah, and it's a really impressive thing. I know you've got it on a hill, so it can be seen from a long way away, but why that particular spot? Why was that chosen?
Well, it's an interesting conversation that we've had even up to today is why that hill. There were 27 bases in Lincolnshire, and we looked at each of them, and many had been returned to either farmland or had been turned into housing or industrial estates. Some were still active RAF stations. You really don't want to put a public-facing thing like this on an RAF station.
No.
So that really ruled those out. And the ones that were remaining, it became, well, which one would you choose? And do they have good communication routes? Because obviously we need people to get there. And where isn't there already some aviation heritage? And in the end, we discounted all 27 and we looked for something that connected Bomber Command to the county but had those communication routes. And the single strongest thing is Lincoln Cathedral. And so we started to look around at what we could use, and right opposite Lincoln Cathedral is our hill.
Yeah.
And we managed to negotiate with the owners, who are Jesus College, Oxford, and they came around to thinking it was a really wonderful idea to host this really important memorial.
Yeah.
And so we took ownership in August 2014.
Yeah. It's a really impressive thing. Now, you mentioned about the children that have been through your programme. So tell us what you offer for schools and education.
Well, we specialise in one of the government's themes, which is social, moral, cultural, and spiritual. And because that takes in debate and ethics and cultural joining and religion and all of those things, all of which fit so superbly with Bomber Command's heritage. Um, but also they study local history, so this is such a strong Lincolnshire story. So our programmes range from um, remembrance and the power of remembrance. Why do we do it and how important is it? The debate around the choices that these people must have had to make, how people of different cultures and nationalities come together. And then 3 or 4 times a year, we work with the RAF STEM team to offer science, technology, engineering, and maths courses. But they're massively oversubscribed. So at the moment, we're looking at putting in a new building which will enable us to offer that on a much wider scale.
And I believe you have things that schools can borrow as well, can't you, if they can't actually bring the children to the site?
Yeah, our famous borrow boxes, and so they will contain some artifacts, work programs that the children can work their way through, and there are different levels for primary and secondary. And also this incredible sound cube onto which we've recorded various interviews, the sound of a Lancaster taking off, and that's part of the experience. So the teachers can almost recreate some of the exhibition in their own classroom.
Yeah, yeah. What do visitors say they enjoy the most about your site?
Well, other than the cafe, which always gets a good review, I think it's that emotional connection.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, 52% of our guests have no connection with the RAF or Bomber Command, but they still feel that emotional connection. And I think it was brought home to me. We had a coach come in full of Icelandic ladies,
Yeah.
and delighted as we were to see them, there was a bit of, I wonder why. So I had that conversation because Iceland was part of the Axis and weren't heavily involved in World War II and certainly weren't impacted by Bomber Command. And the answer was incredibly simple but incredibly powerful. She said, "We're all mothers." And I think that connection of understanding what loss is
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how important that is.
Yeah. Do you have a particular favourite part of the site?
Uh, Not a favourite part of the site, but I have to say, if I've had a particularly stressful day, what I do is I lock up the site and I take a cup of tea and I go and sit up by the spire and I go, I'm very stressed, and then I look around me and I listen to the skylarks and I look over the cathedral and I think, I'm not really that stressed.
Yeah.
And it's a perfectly peaceful place.
Yeah.
And we do know that a lot of ex-military, not just RAF, but across the forces, come up for exactly that purpose. If they're feeling, if they've got PTSD or they're feeling particularly stressed, it seems to resonate and calm the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a beautiful view up there.
It is. It is. On a day when the wind's not coming in from the Urals.
Yeah, true. Tell me about the ribbon of remembrance. What's that?
So we started that back in 2016, and there were two reasons for starting it. And one was obviously we've had no government funding for this project. It's all been done through grants and donations. So this was part of that fundraising effort. But the other reason for doing it was that if your loved one had been killed whilst serving, they were on our walls.
Yeah.
But what happened about all those veterans who had served and weren't killed and survived the war.
Mm.
Where was their memory? And so that was the reason we set it up originally. But what happened quite quickly, actually, is that families who had names on the walls felt that they wanted to put their own personal marker down as well.
Mm.
So we've many crews who are named both on the walls and within the ribbon.
Mm.
Um, and then it opened up gradually. So we have all services, including our emergency services, we've got represented up there.
Mm.
We've got civilians, even two dogs
Yes.
who have stones in the ribbon. And basically, that ribbon connects the uh, Chadwick Centre with the memorial, and it runs both sides. And there's over 2,500 individual tributes
Yeah.
now laid.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the things that we're finding is we host quite a lot of funeral wakes,
Yeah.
and a lot of those families are now putting stones down because it gives a focal point for people to visit post wake.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a place that's all about remembrance, and in beautiful contemplative space. So
Yeah.
um, what the consequence of having the ribbon is that in itself has become a huge piece of interpretation. Visitors, no matter their background, spend an awful lot of time reading the individual stones.
Mm. And do you have people coming who are researching their family?
A lot of people, yeah, and we are blessed. We have 436 volunteers in 9 countries, but we have a core who are particularly good at researching. And so quite often we've been able to help people with their searching. It's got to the point where we were getting 30, 40 research queries a day. So we
Oh,
do ask for a donation,
yes.
because obviously it takes a volunteer quite a lot of time, and it requires them having various subscriptions.
Mm.
But we've been able to connect people from across the world through those researchers. And it's a very powerful tool when you see someone who's third generation discovering the story of their great grandparents
Mm.
and being able to connect them with other relatives around the world. That's a huge part of why we exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. How accessible is the site for people who've got mobility issues?
Well, we're AA rated, so we have parking, disabled parking, accessible parking. We have accessible toilets on all floors. We have 2 lifts, so it's a 2-story building.
Mhm.
You're not going to get inertia from going in our lifts. They're nice and gentle. And we also have a changing places facility,
Mm.
which we installed in 2021. The paths are all wheelchair friendly, and we have subtitling on all of our films throughout the exhibition, and all our counters, both in the cafe and in at reception, we have a low access point there.
Mhm.
And we work with Visit England with Access Able to make sure that that's kept up to date. But we also bring in every couple of years a local voluntary group called Lincoln Voices, who are a volunteer team made up of people with varying disabilities
Mm.
who essentially come in and test our building for
Ah.
us and then write a report. And it's then that you find out that what the building control says doesn't necessarily cater for everybody.
Yeah.
So we've made modifications on their recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your policy on dogs?
So we welcome dogs. They're allowed everywhere except for within the exhibition, and that's really for their safety because in the main room there's quite low lighting, but there are some sudden noises,
Mm.
and so we ask you not to take your dogs in there. But otherwise, they're welcome everywhere. And we've got some beautiful walks connected to the site. So we've got the Viking Walk, which you can get to through a gate on the site. And just across the road from us through another pedestrian exit is the village of Cannock with some beautiful walks. So we cater for that, and there are complimentary doggy treats in the cafe for them, and we make sure there are plenty of water bowls down.
Lovely. Tell me about special events that you hold throughout the year.
So we host about or hold about 21 events every year because we realised very quickly that this had become a community project, but that we worked within lots of different communities, and so we do a range of things to make sure that we can cater for everyone. So this past weekend we've had an artisan food and drink fair, and then we've got our free 90th anniversary trail, which is great for families. They can come and pick up a trail. And we call it learning by stealth. The children have a great time, but they're actually learning a lot while they're at it. And then we go in, it's our biggest event probably coming up, which is International Bomber Command Day, which we set up in 2021, which is a daytime service which gives people an opportunity to come and pay their respects and tribute to Bomber Command. So that'll be a lot of families or people with a connection. A lot of military will be there. And then we have a big formal dinner in the evening. And then the next one after that is our big 40s weekend, which is great fun. People make so much effort dressing up, and there's just such a good vibe over that event. Then we've got a vintage car event. We do everything from there to carol services and wreath making. So you name it, and we've probably got something that fits.
Something for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the biggest challenges you face? I guess it's probably the funding, is it?
Yeah, yeah, and we're not alone in that, and I appreciate that. But the funding bit is twofold, really. One is getting the funding in to continue to develop and grow the project. As I mentioned with the schools, we need to expand that. We turned 42% of our schools away last year. They need a dedicated centre, and on that accessibility bit, one of the challenges that we've got is that our current facility is on the first floor. So students coming in from SEND schools have to wait until we've got a marquee in the summer because we can't evacuate safely should
Right.
anything go wrong. So this new building is designated completely AA accessible.
Yeah.
So in terms of funding, that's a really competitive space at the moment because there isn't any government funding. And we made a decision very early on that one shouldn't charge to go to a memorial. So everything except for the exhibition and as contribution towards parking is free for people to access. All our events,
Yeah.
other than the ticketed ones, are free. So in terms of generating enough revenue to develop the project, that's a challenge. But the other challenge that we face in this sector, and this is attractions and hospitality, is the raft of additional taxation that's been levied, which is meaning that we're able to save less of the money coming in order to develop the project for the future. And that is a challenge that's being taken up at the moment.
What is the cost to visit the exhibition?
So if you're buying on the day, we offer either a day or an annual pass for the same rate. An adult is £12.50. The concession rate is £11.50. Child, and that's 5 to 16. Under 5s are free. A child is £6.50, and then a family ticket is £37.50. If you buy more than 24 hours in advance online, then you make a saving per ticket.
Yeah.
And then we also do a group rate, which is for 20 or more, which is £10.50.
Yeah. And I imagine you get a lot of groups visiting, do you?
A lot, a lot, yeah. We have coach parking, so we're able to provide somewhere for the coaches to stay whilst their visitors are with us. And yeah, we get a lot from all over the country, and even across occasionally from Holland, Belgium, and France.
Yeah. Why would you say this site matters, Nikki?
Because for nearly 70 years, Bomber Command was ignored or worse, vilified. And yet they had the highest loss rate of any unit in World War II. And every night they went up and put their lives at risk, knowing that the likelihood was they wouldn't come back. And despite the decisions taken by the politicians and the senior military about what was targeted and how, those guys went up and they served their country and they protected our freedom. And because of that time span, they're not understood, and we can learn so much from their story that resonates with today. And so from a very young child up to those of a much older generation, they will learn something when they come and visit us, no matter how much they think they know about it. And that, I think, is important, because we must never, ever forget. It's at our own peril, particularly in today's climate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, Nikki. I've really enjoyed learning all about the IBCC.
Brilliant. It's been great to talk to you, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Come Here. If you know a heritage attraction that would love to be featured, or you have a suggestion for somewhere you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. To find my email address and find out more about me, pop to my website at lizdrury.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, rate and review the show. It really helps other people to find it. See you next time, and come and discover somewhere else worth visiting.